Dear colleagues, dear guests, good morning. We welcome you at our event, Green Jobs and Investment Potential for Development of Renewable Energy in Ukraine. Until we are waiting for some speakers, yet we are ready to start. And we would like to start with a brief introduction. Why shall we speak about green jobs? Whether there is a place in the discourse of the wartime? And generally, what is the green economy that we aspire for in the post-war restoration of Ukraine? For the beginning, I would like to remind the following. The green economy that we aspire for, and after we win in the war of Russia versus Ukraine, we have no doubts, yet it takes time and effort. Yet we believe in victory. We also believe in the victory of the green energy over the traditional energy, the energy of oil and gas and coal, of the fossil fuels, which pollutes the atmosphere, provokes emissions of greenhouse gases, and also causes climatic crisis and also peace crisis, because the fossil fuel is a basis of instigating wars and conflicts worldwide, not only in Ukraine. We are attacked by the greatest oil and gas aggressor in the world, the country with huge resources, yet everything we do within 1.5 years is to cut off the cash flows to the aggressor country and to redirect them for the financing of green power that will revive Ukraine, which will make it possible for us to rebuild on climatically friendly, sustainable principles, to renew the environment which was badly damaged and destroyed, and to restore our human potential. Generally reminding what green power is, about green jobs. This will be discussed by one of our speakers, keynote speakers. In the green economy, growth of the employment and income is caused by public and private investment into such economic activity as infrastructure and assets. That will allow to minimize the emissions of greenhouse gases, CO2 emissions in particular, reduction of industrial pollution, improvement of efficiency of the use of energy and resources, and prevention of the loss of biodiversity, and also to improve the ecosystem services. Speaking of statistics, the language of numbers, and the language of international labor organizations, because they prepare the reports of what are the green jobs, whether they are in the trend or not in the trend, what are the benefits for the people. The benefit is freedom and dignity, a good payment, and motivation, as well as satisfaction. That the work generates benefit for the environment and also generates benefit for the climate, never polluting it. In other words, we preserve the environment and the most valuable resources for the future generations. Those are not just words. By the estimations of ILO, worldwide, they will establish before 2030 24 million jobs, 6 million of which will disappear due to the fair transition to the clean energy. 18 million jobs will be created, clean jobs, and we can see the numbers, convincing numbers, which tell us that indeed the green jobs is something which inevitably must support post-war restoration of Ukraine by principles of green economy and clean energy. Another number which indeed may surprise is that for the last 5 years, the number of green jobs worldwide has increased to 137%. It's a huge progress. We are witnessing both accelerated energy transition, and also we are witnessing how quickly does the labor market change. It depends on us. How quickly will it change in Ukraine? The last thing I would like to quote, because this is important, the way towards green jobs is very simple. It looks difficult, that it will be difficult and hard and lengthy and also unclear. Actually, it is rather clear. This is confirmed by International Energy Agency, International Labour Organization, that the green jobs must begin with certain policies in the governments, as well as the lawmakers, and they need to find their place in the legislation. Not just to find their place and just to stay there. This is the legislation which must be implemented. completing the introduction and also announcing the keynote speakers, I would like to say that the legislation in Ukraine currently contains no notion of the green jobs, and in a very limited way they ever mentioned what the jobs are about. Just in some concepts of the economic development is to create the jobs. What to do, how to do, until we have that in the policies and in the great politics, we practically we cannot do it. Nowadays, I would like to invite our keynote speakers, Natalia Andres and those joining us. Natalia Andrusevich, head of the chairman of the board of the Resource Analytics Center, Society and the Environment. And she will present the research about the green jobs, the number of them, and very important numbers and estimates. The study was accomplished by two organizations that will represent it for you. Together we stand. This is our organization, which is part of the international climatic movement, which is focused at a complete depletion of financial resources and cash flows to the Russian economy that they receive from sale of oil and gas and coal, and also on rebuilding Ukraine with 100% pure energy that will cause revolutionary energy transition worldwide.
Слово Наталі.
I give the floor to Natalia. Natalia will introduce herself, and we shall look into the presentation. Also, I invite Mr. Rodion Kolishko, also Olga Remishevska, to join our panel as keynote speakers later on. We shall also involve them to the discussion. Thank you very much indeed, Svetlana. Good morning, dear colleagues. My name is Natalia Andrusevich. I'm head of the board, chairman of the board of Resource Analytical Center, Society and Environment. We are independent think tank operating in the field of climatic, environmental policy and law, starting since 2006. These days, our main attention is a matter of green restoration and future membership of Ukraine in the European Union. We are happy, together with Svetlana and her team, our team made such a study which is focused on green jobs, restoration of Ukraine. Why there was such an idea of such a study? When it became clear that the war takes time and one has to think of the restoration, quite many environmental NGOs and the other communities are advocating the matter of green restoration of Ukraine, building on the green basis, and we understood that it's not enough to say general words. It's not enough to say that shall we work, shall we do everything on the green principles. We need to be more specific. Therefore, we decided to take one of the important directions, which is the green jobs. Why? Because Ukraine lost a lot of citizens. Quite many people have left for other countries, and quite a lot of workforce was lost. And we are facing that soon there will be nobody to work in Ukraine. Therefore, the idea of green jobs is a way to return the citizens of Ukraine back home. This is also the way to give them the jobs here, which will be based on green principles and with proper payment, proper remuneration. This is the main idea of the study. The study will be available as of today on the web page in Svetlana's organization, also on our web page. The study is available in Ukrainian English, so you can see everything in the detail, including the estimates and the diagrams. Please use it for your research and advocacy campaigns and other useful things. Very briefly, I would like to dwell on the main things in the study to make it clear. And also I would like to focus on the matters such as green jobs. Why is it important today? What are the prospects for Ukraine? And what shall we start with? What shall we do as early as now? What the green jobs are about? As Svetlana mentioned before, in the legislation of Ukraine, this is not defined yet. If you look into what other countries say, as well as international organizations, as well as communities, there is no unified approach. There is no clear definition to define the green jobs. Yet we looked and we found that there are two main concepts how they define the green jobs. The first approach is the one on the basis of the result. They take the sectors of the economy and the activity which are traditionally are believed green, and they count the number of jobs. For example, the sector of renewable energy, it's a green sector, we take it and there we count the number of jobs. And other producers who manufacture environmental goods or provide environmental services. And there is a methodology of the UN of how to do it, and actually European Union is also using the same approach. They have the category of environmental goods and services, and therefore they count their green jobs. And this is a good approach also for us, because Ukraine is aspiring for the EU, and probably this approach will be closer. Another one is on the basis of the process-based. We look at the spheres of economic activity. They can be not really green in a traditional sense. Maybe they will generate certain damage to the environment. Well, they look into the competencies of the workers. If there is a company with a specialist for environmental protection, this is considered a green job. This approach is more difficult. In US, they use it, yet they have a lot of descriptors for each of the professions, and then they define the green jobs in such a way.
Багато над питанням зелених робочих.
The International Organization of Labor is working a lot on the matter of green jobs. They believe it's important to create the green jobs because the future belongs to it, and they define the advantages from it. And also one interesting component that they are adding to the definition of what the green jobs are, this is a proper remuneration. This includes good conditions, good labor conditions up to the standards, and also good remuneration. In the context of our green post-war restoration, restoring Ukraine, the aspiration to return the people back to Ukraine who would work here, this notion of decent remuneration is important because people will return for good remuneration rather than coming back not knowing about the future and what awaits them. Why it is important right now, as I said before, why did we choose this topic, why it is important for Ukraine? Actually, we can see the trend also worldwide and also in the European Union by the example of European Green Deal, which was declared in the EU in December of 2019. But nowadays, there are certain delays or changes because of the situation in Ukraine, which has also affected the priorities of European Union. Nevertheless, in the European Green Deal, there are clear policies for creating green jobs, in particular in the field of construction, where it was planned before 2030 to create 160,000 additional jobs just in this particular sector. Also with the investment into renewable energy, also with widespread of principles and ideas of European Green Deal for other countries, because European Union declared a large-scale policy to influence also the other countries. As I said before, in the EU, in the European Union, they measure green jobs because there is classification of the sector of environmental goods and services, and also there is a trend that the employment in the field of environmental goods and services generally was growing for the last 10 years, faster than the employment in the other sectors. And here,
місць це станом
We can see the number of jobs as of 2020 in the EU. We can see Germany, probably they have a lot of population back there, and also we can see the same trend for the growth. In Ukraine, as it was mentioned by Svetlana, there is no defined notion of the green jobs. There is no sector of environmental goods and services. We have been actively involved in that advocacy of that process. Actually, the Ministry of Economy sends to the statistics, and they send back to the Ministry of Economy, and currently we don't have it. We have International Agency for Renewable Energy, IRENA. Before the war, they counted the employment in the sector of renewable energy in Ukraine, and they have noticed a very positive trend. This is the data as of 2021. And of course, this was connected to implementation of the green tariff in Ukraine, which actually supported the growth of green jobs. Of course, nowadays they don't count. For Ukraine, there are no numbers, no data. Yet this is a good example that even under the conditions, when we don't have it in the legislation, it's not in the statistics, anyway, this can be counted, at least for certain sectors. What are the prospects for Ukraine? As I said before, we have designed this work on the matter of green jobs because of restoration of Ukraine, which, to our mind, has to be done based on the green principles. And we have attempted to count how many additional jobs can be generated by this restoration. As we have counted, it was actually difficult, a lot of challenge how to count this. We looked into the methodologies of other organizations, the approaches, how it is being counted, and we found such a methodology of the International Monetary Fund, which has defined how per $1 million of public investment of the economy, they create jobs in every sector. We looked into the assessment, the second assessment, which is done by the World Bank and the UN and the government of Ukraine about the needs for restoration. It defines a particular amount of money that will be necessary for Ukraine for restoration. Therefore, we have tried to count this, also depending on the mobility of the workforce in the country, not the mobility between the regions, but rather the mobility between the sectors. To what extent people easily move from the transport company to working into another transport company under the normal conditions and under the conditions of restoration, which takes place on the green principles, based on the green principles. And the next one, how many additional green jobs will be created if the restoration takes place on the green principles. To the maximum extent, we can see additional green jobs, which is about 1,200,000. Actually, why is that important? Because they quote different numbers, how many people have left the country, how many of them can return. And actually, if to do the work in this direction, such a green restoration will be able to provide jobs for all people who will be interested to return back to Ukraine. What are the main findings? The post-war green restoration will generate up to 4,200,000 in a number of sectors of the economy. We have defined those sectors. And of course, the largest ability towards creating the jobs is in the sector of transportation, as well as water supply, as well as renewable energy. Also, there are quite many studies whether it's a highly qualified workforce or unqualified workforce. There are the studies which tell that on as a first stage of creating the green jobs, they require more unqualified workforce rather than qualified workforce. So maybe in the case of Ukraine, it's good because people are coming back, they don't have the right qualification, they may start their work, yet on the next stages, they will require more qualified workers, more highly qualified workers, and there will be a sufficient time for professional development, for learning, and so on. This is also an important thing. And what one has to do, what Ukraine must do, that this becomes a reality, and we can move in this direction. As we said before, as Svetlana said before, this matter must be discussed at the level of the policies, must be defined in the legislation, also in the statistical data, that we can see the trends. Because actually, all of those studies are the assumptions, because we cannot say in Ukraine there is no data about mobility of the workforce in the sectors, and we can just do the assumptions, look into the statistics, how many people got dismissed in some narrow sector from their job, and how many people were enrolled. Therefore, we do the assumptions, and of course, we would like to have more reliable data. And also the second stage, equally important, which is rebuilding on the green basis. And cooperation with international partners is important. As we can see today, there is a draft regulation on Ukraine facilities. This is a new financial instrument, according to which they will create a plan of Ukraine, and they will provide the funds for restoration of Ukraine as well as modernization for the future membership. How important, what makes this plan important, and we are grateful to the EU that they have the green conditions of financing in that plan, that those projects that will be funded, that they cannot cause a lot of damage to the environment, and also support decarbonization and be climatically neutral. This is a good approach. I hope that it will work in the practice. Of course, this is an investment into the green sector and also cooperation with a number of stakeholders, including the business, which may create such jobs. Also, educational sector, which prepares the future employees or can provide for requalification of the existing workers. I have briefly discussed the study. Of course, it contains much more interesting information and all the diagrams and all the numbers. Thank you very much indeed, Natalia. Mr. Tornsten, we also invite you to take your speaker's place. Indeed, those numbers create the hope. They give us the hope. I would like to thank Natalia for the presentation of the studies that we made. It took place with support of European Climatic Foundation, objectively reflects our reality. We can add to this that quite a lot of jobs can be created in the rural areas. Yet today we don't discuss them because it will become a part of the second part of the studies that we are still planning. We have reviewed such sectors as energy, transport, water supply, because it includes a lot of work, yet Ukraine has a lot of prospects in it. Mr. Torsten, I would like to introduce you to our audience, including the participants offline and online. Mr. Torsten is the Minister Advisor of the EU delegation to Ukraine. There are important processes in European Union. European Parliament reviewed 500 comments to Ukraine facility plan. Among them, there was implementation of a lot of environmental things, corporate social responsibilities that we expect from the industry, because another part of using such funds will be focused probably on support small and medium business, because before the war, they provided more than 60% of the GDP of Ukraine, and currently they sustain the burden of how our economy develops. And the faster we green our conscious business, the better prospects shall we have as a candidate country for the EU. Therefore, we would like to give the floor to you. Could you please tell us, so you have listened to the research, what do you think, how it can be implemented in Ukraine? What is the connection with European Green Deal? Because optimistically, we believe that we can fulfill all of the requirements to candidacy that have been postponed. Do you believe in us? Whether your delegation believes in us, and what are the next steps planned for approximation of legislation?
Дуже дякую.
Thank you very much for this invitation.
It's okay.
Тільки скажу коротко, що в нас доступний синхронний переклад.
I would like to say in short, so we have the simultaneous translation. Please use the equipment on this small table if you need the simultaneous translation.
For the invitation, and also thank you very much for the very interesting analysis, because we are now in the discussion, as you mentioned, of a new way of working together on the economic reconstruction, economic growth of the Ukraine economy. And we are now also in the process of defining the way of Ukraine joining the European Union. So we are now, there will be a proposal by the European Commission to the EU member states and the European Parliament recommending to open negotiations or not. We don't know yet with Ukraine. The general signs are very positive. So there are some very positive supporting statements coming from the European Parliament. But of course, this is a very highly political process, and there needs to be unanimity when it comes also to EU member states. And we are all aware that, 27 member states, and some are more friendly, others are less friendly. And I wouldn't even say that this is the countries, it's more the leaders of the countries who have certain positions. So we will see how this plays out. And in parallel, but linked to this, is also the discussion about additional financial support by the European Union to Ukraine, what is called normally in English the Ukraine Facility, where the European Commission has proposed to make an additional 50 billion euros available for supporting Ukraine until the end of 2027. And the government is currently preparing and, of course, discussing with partners in the European Union the planning for how this money should be spent so that really produces growth. And we, of course, argue, and I think we agree, that it should not just be growth, it should be green growth. And the word "zelene vidnovlenie" is something which you see everywhere. And this is very much encouraging because the aim of what the Americans call building better, I think this is consensus. You can ask essentially from the president to the taxi driver, everybody will tell you that we should not build what we had before, we should build back better. And in this context, of course, the question that you are raising about the jobs, about the future industries, the reindustrialization of Ukraine is crucial. And I very much like the presentation you did. Something which I think is important and which should not be forgotten is that the whole economic context of Ukraine's economy has changed and will further change. We have seen a dramatic interruption of existing value chains in Ukraine, which were essentially built on a legacy of Soviet or post-Soviet economic relations and on, let's say, a production of commodities for the world market. And both of these things have been put under question because of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, but also because the whole logic of the global economy is changing. And when we see what's happening in the United States of America, for instance, where they are promoting green investments, where they are talking about recalibrating value chains, they talk about de-risking. And in Brussels, we talk very much about the same, that we have found, especially also during the COVID pandemic, that there are certain vulnerabilities in our economic system which we would like to fix. And in this is also a context and a big opportunity for Ukraine, for Ukrainian businesses, for the economy that goes beyond the national context. And what we are now seeing is a reflection and an agreement that this opportunity should be used. And this is hopefully, we don't know yet, we are in the discussion, but this hopefully will be reflected also fully in the Ukraine plan that the government is currently elaborating, proposing, and which then should be the basis for additional EU funding. So the plan will just not be a plan, but the 50 billion, or we don't know how much money, but the EU money will be linked to this plan. And that is hopefully providing a big impetus to go in the direction and not just to say, well, it's a plan and tomorrow we have another plan. No, we will have a plan. We will have a lot of money. We will also make this plan public so that other partners, including private partners, industry, banks, but also other countries, can at least take some orientation from this plan. And in this sense, it's a wider effort than just having a government plan. And the green reconstruction is at the core of this. And so this is one aspect which I would like to mention, is this changed context of having green value chains of what, for instance, we are talking about diversification of economic risks. We are talking about nearshoring. And if you think about the European market, you can look at it as essentially an extended home market for Ukrainian businesses. So if you have a good service here, you have examples like Nova Pochta. They are opening offices in, neighboring countries, which makes a lot of sense. We see that big companies in Ukraine, companies like DTEC, they are now developing projects in the European Union, so that Ukrainian businesses go out of the country and they also come back with certain best practices and certain business models, which hopefully will help with the green transition, the green recovery of Ukraine, and also with the knowledge about what you are working on the green jobs. And the second aspect which I would like to mention is that this is a very dynamic environment. If you look at the cost of, for instance, renewable energy technologies, they keep falling. Why? Because there's a lot of innovation. This is very new. And this also means that innovation should become part of Ukrainian economy much more than it is before. Because when we look at the research system, the education system, much of it is still very, very traditional and is not yet fully taking into account these new realities of the global economy, of the European markets, of new renewable technologies, etc. The whole green aspect needs to be put there as well, because then Ukrainians will have fantastic job opportunities and Ukrainian companies will become competitive not only in their own country but in the wider context. So when you continue your studies, I would encourage you to try to take this also into account, because it is not a static thing. It's not just that you say, well, look, this is how it is. We just need to copy it and then it will be fine. No, because the whole thing is moving. So if you copy something which worked, let's say, in Poland 10 years ago, you will not be up to speed. Let's stop here.
Thank you so much for your informative speech, and I agree with you completely. So we have really huge trust into our state authorities who are currently opposing. І зараз я перейду на українську. Я подякувала пану Торстену за презентацію, але
So I thanked Torsten for his presentation, but we need to be flexible. We need to understand that the investment flows are changing, and we need to consider this. They will be focused on Ukraine as a public and private investments from state institutions, from pension funds and other funds, and from private institutions. But Is it like this indeed? Because we plan to create in Ukraine the first reconstruction bank, which will be the first reconstruction bank in the bank after the war which is in the open ongoing war due to aggression of Russian Federation. But this bank and creation of the bank was a multi plan for initiated by the President Zelensky and BlackRock company, who they have in their management trillions of assets in US dollars, and JP Morgan Chase, which is on the very honorable first place in the world with their investments into oil and gas industry. But the question is when the investments will go into Ukraine, where they will go into the green jobs, as you say, Torsten, for renovation as it was before and better than it before. We have even bigger ambition. The civil movement, we believe in coalition and what can take place in Ukraine, the energy transfer, which could be the best and most known in the world, and which will create the model for global energy transformation, which happened already, because Europe started to burn by 17% of oil and gas just only in 1 year, and because of our big losses which we have as a nation, and if Ukraine, in the name of high authorities, will not react to this, and we will lose this credit. And so, as this is a national plan for climate has not been created, it is in the process, and it is planned to use these 50 billion of money of the European Union. So we need to talk about the green jobs. So I would like to invite the new speaker, first Deputy Minister of Energy of Ukraine, Maria Malaya, and please, our technical support, please connect her to our stream, to Zoom, and we will listen how it is going on, how the decarbonization fund is being created, which the state agency is taking care of. We are very active, and after Maria, we will be capable to listen to Yaroslav Demchenko, who is dealing with European integration and energy transfer in the Ministry of Energy, and then we will ask our speakers, Olga Remeshevskaya, who is the Director of Department of Restoration in Vinnytsia City Council, and Rodion Kolishka, who is the Director of Institute of Professional Qualifications. I will tell you a bit more about what the speakers will tell you, and but we are very happy today. We are with us today in a quiet day in Kiev. So, Maria, you are there. Greetings to you. Hello, and so we know that the state agency cooperates with the public very much. It is very open institution, and we would like to give you the floor to speak. How you look at the green jobs and how you move to this in this direction of the decarbonization fund. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this invitation to take part in this very interesting discussion. And of course, I would like to greet everyone and thank all other colleagues who joined us in this discussion, because maybe it's very important to look at the decarbonization and green transfer and look at it from different perspectives, not only from one side and have only very simple approach. It was a very relevant mentioning of a national plan of energy and climate, because in this plan there should be this European principle of integration of energy policy, energy efficiency, green energy and decarbonization. So we will hear this too very often, because I always say in Ukraine we have very ambitious plans, because since even the end of 2021 in December, before the larger scale invasion, the government approved the energy transfer plan, which envisaged a reduction of use of fossil energy by 23% and reduction of consumption of energy by 17%, and there were some targets on reduction of carbon emissions, which will be 25% as compared to 2021. So these targets were created by the Directorate of Economic Cooperation and the Council of Ministers on Economic Cooperation. And this year our obligation was accepted. This is more for Yaroslav as for a portion of renewable energy in the end consumption, which is according to energy community in 2030 should be 27%. So what I would like to say, on the level of the government, the state already accepted this course of decarbonization and energy efficiency development and green transfer. And today we are at the phase when we have to create instruments to achieve these goals, because it's not too much to declare, but we need to find the means to achieve and do this green transfer, astonishing for our partners, and not to mislead them in their expectations. So the ministry is responsible for the policy of energy efficiency and is doing lots of activities. As you said, we are working on mechanism within the state fund of decarbonization, and I would like to mention that today the communities, the business, they have instruments which they can use just not without too much efforts and money. First of all, is to introduce the energy management system, and this is the field to create a totally new job market. The energy efficiency specialists, this is very close to our today's discussion, because if we speak about energy efficiency, we have this opportunity. This market will develop. This market will be the market of very experienced energy managers. This is the market of energy auditors where this agency is working today, and according to the law on energy efficiency, there should be compulsory energy audits, and the market of services will develop for such services. Another market is the market of energy service market, and we hope that it will get new features, new advanced features, and will move from energy services to facility management, that is to manage the facilities and the resources in the sense of energy efficiency. This is for energy efficiency services markets, but as I said, energy transfer, there are three fields. The second field is development of green businesses, where we also hope that Ukraine has very big potential, namely, as you said previously, the agrarian sector. So, according to a Green Deal, there is a whole layer of potential in the agrarian sector, and actually this is a development of bioenergy. Today we mentioned already IRENA and research of this organization on development of labor market and green labor market. So the bioenergy in the global research by IRENA is on the second place by the speed of the growth and the potential and the need of specialists in bioenergy on the market of green labor on or so to say.
Це власне
So if the first place are the solar specialist and the second place are the bioenergy specialists, and today Ukraine is the strategic partner of Europe, namely in the development of biomethane and other synthetic gases, and this market is just creating in Ukraine, but the potential of the resources and the specialists in Ukraine is big, and so that I mean this is the field where we have to develop, because this is fully in correspondence to our possibilities and the expectations of our partners. So also we need to remember that within the restoration we need to develop green materials. They should be the base of a restoration, and actually the European countries and developed countries in the US, there are very many technologies which allow to develop the production of green materials for construction. And in Ukraine, on the other hand, there is the potential of domestic production of materials. So we have very many local producers of such materials, and this is the next niche for development, which we plan also to support from the agency. And just in short, not to take your attention, our main task in the agency is to support this stream for green transfer, and from other side we will try, and within our future platform of decarbonization on which we are now working, is to create the opportunities to develop all the fields of these green businesses, the energy efficient production of energy, to facilitate the transfer of the green technologies from partners, to create markets for energy efficient services. For these, we plan to launch financial instruments which will be available next year within the decarbonization fund activities. So I share the optimism that Ukraine can show this leading role and progress in the green transfer, because namely we don't have other choice. Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you for joining, for support, and finalizing this. And we agree that the need to stimulate the green business, and we need to remind that before the war we started to introduce green procurement. We couldn't develop them too much, but this is the stimulus. Also, there are green bonds, green securities, green lending. We understand that due to aggression from Russia, they were a bit suspended, but they will be restored after the end of war. And I would like to invite another speaker, Yaroslav Demchenko, who is the Deputy Minister of Energy in the field of European energy, and he was working in high commissions, and he is the leader of a green transformation of Ukraine in this process, and we would like to thank the ministry, if possible, to connect the ministry and Yaroslav, because they cope with all energy challenges of war. We have a big hope on them that the green transfer after the war without modular reactors, and it will be the advantage of Ukraine after the war. And thank you very much, Yaroslav. Thank you for your time. And we presented the research on green jobs, and we would like to see your opinion on the green transfer. I would like to ask. Also, in general, 2/3 of green jobs they are created in Asian countries, and because they have the economic boom, and they have bigger competitors. 42 jobs in China are green, because this is the leader in green equipment and so on. In the EU, this is 10%. How we can make Ukraine the capable and to create the new economic wonder, not doing harm to our climate without the creation of greenhouse gases, and being in the wave of green transfer. Thank you, Yaroslav. Thank you very much for your question, dear participants of this event, dear listeners on the line. Unfortunately, I couldn't meet you before. I had the meeting with the Norwegian delegation on, by the way, on the solar development. And as for these terms, how to do so that Ukraine, for sure, after our victory, would take a very fast direction for green restoration, so that we would not come back to the technologies which are harmful to our population, and we need to be honest that they are obsolete and they do not support economic growth. Unfortunately, I couldn't listen to the presentation of the research, but I will for sure learn about this because for us in the ministry it's very important the attitude of people from civil society to this topic, and we look at the means how to make our energy clean and affordable. So this large scale invasion changes the architecture of energy in Ukraine, and we have lots of challenges which are provoked by this war, and these are not challenges of this period when we will have a very hard heating season, to which we should be ready. But there will be challenges of restorations. If we have a very fast solution which we should implement, all this solution should be sustainable but not so fast. But Ukraine has a very interesting history of development of renewable energy. In 2019, Ukraine was in the top 10 country for renewable sources, and one year later it was in the top 5 leaders of solar energy, and in 2021 we had the energy mix which was almost as in Europe, which was 60%, and sometimes we had the periods when we had to introduce 100% decarbonized. So it would be very interesting so that Ukraine would be the leader in not burning fuel or gas. So we should repeat this, and we should make it not in a long period, but to make it that it would be in several months, and that energy would be sustainable. So it's very important for the country which is in the state of war, where the part of the territory of the country is occupied. Especially it's important for the country which loses not only the steel, but the people as well. And so today we speak about the most valuable asset of our country, our people, the professionals which are under these conditions of shelling and attacks. They go to the mine, they restore, they repair, they use some non-standard solutions to provide to us, the Ukrainians, with energy which we need, the electricity, hot water, the elevators in the houses, and everything would be good. But the Prime Minister, together with the President, they set up a very clear target for the Ministry of Energy, and Minister of Energy, Mr. Galushenko, presented the energy strategy of Ukraine for 2050. Somebody from expert circles were very surprised. Why to 2015? How can we stand until 2050? But we believe in our victory. We needed to look at Ukraine as the part of a European Union. We should count on our resources, and Ukraine received as the status of a candidate to EU, we needed to do everything that European markets were compatible with the Ukrainian market, and we must do everything to be present at global markets. But our first task is not to lose the ambitious climate targets which were established before the war. I would say that there was the contribution to Paris Treaty, and now we are working on another treaties. Just to make Ukraine as a green hub, it is not only about the climate, but the quality of life of Ukrainians, about sustainable jobs and competitiveness of the products created in Ukraine, and Ukrainians would be capable to use new technologies, to the possibility to stand in the new technologies and refuse from all the technologies and to create jobs that will allow us to develop sustainable energy, green energy, and to use the green energy in the transport and in many other industries. In our countries, we have lots of advantages, and besides that, we are resistant as a people, and our energy system is resistant, but we have a very good position, and of course our natural resources and our energy potential and human potential, and so we also took it into account in our energy strategy, so that Ukraine inside Europe would be at a very high level. But it's not so easy to do. It's very difficult to do. First, we need the time. Secondly, we need to win this war, and we need to attract European Ukrainians back. So, notwithstanding that people say that such technologies are sustainable, we need to take the best technologies, not the old solar panels used in Europe, not as we used previously the old cars.
When everybody had cars, old cars from Europe on European plates, and people did not know what to do with them. Ukraine should not become a place for discharge for obsolete green technology. This is one of the challenges that we now have. And also we need to have a look that we need to survive through the winter, forthcoming winter. This is very difficult, a very difficult task. We are under the comfortable conditions. We have the domestic power. We have the repair companies, and we did our best to have equipment. However, with precision fire, whether the energy system will sustain, we need to unite. That everybody at his workplace would do his job in a qualitative way. Therefore, we need to think how to prepare to the next winter, to make the system more stable, to make the system more sustainable. And the question, and we need to make it as soon as possible. We need to create distributed power generation. And this is a challenge for us. Whether the regions today are ready to allocate funds to look into new technology, or possibly the technology which is more affordable, like the gas turbines, that on the next winter we shall be less vulnerable in terms of the power generation and in terms of the coverage of the peak load. We need to remember that the power sector is a servicing sector, and the task of the government at the central level and the local level is that the economics locally will have sufficient resources, sufficient energy, and will become a driver for development. With power transition, there is a great economic opportunity, including that in the regions. Therefore, when we speak of a decentralized power system, we speak of sustainable regions with a potential of development because the economies that will develop will require additional capacities. It will also require a stable power supply. And it means that in this sector we shall create new jobs. For this, we have everything we need. It's possible to invest not only into the infrastructure, also to invest into the people and skills. Even today, speaking with Norwegian delegation before this meeting, we discussed that energy transition and green restoration to make them a success. We need professional skills of the employees. Do we have sufficient employees like that? Maybe our ambitious plans of green energy restoration coincide with the plan of personnel training. Do we think how to return our people who left Ukraine, the refugees, back to
Буваючи там, вони подумали про здобуття
Ukraine, that while being there, they will acquire new skills and return back to Ukraine with new skills. And those skills could be implemented also in the newly created green jobs. We need a lot of qualified personnel, highly qualified personnel. This is not only about environmental protection and the green jobs in the power sector, also reduction of emissions. And also, this is reduction of the energy poverty. As a matter of energy poverty in our country is very important. We need to do our best that our citizens and both the consumers and the communities as potential energy islands would play a more active role in the matters of expansion and development of the power sector at the local level. It means that the quality of life and health of that population will improve depending on the improvement of those means that they use for production and transmission of electricity. To what extent they will be economical, as a previous keynote speaker has discussed, to what extent they will be energy efficient. Also, we need to change both the concept of creating the new jobs and also training programs. And also we need to say what we have to do in our everyday life, changing stereotypes of behavior, focusing on more sustainable models of the future of Ukraine, pro-European Ukraine, integrated one, and we have all the prerequisites that we can show quality. Green growth, dear colleagues, is a very good example how we can restore the economy with a sustainable industry, reaching our objective of net zero and providing for the lengthy jobs for the next generations. The jobs, the green jobs do exist. And when the new ones will be created, in reality, we lack people with proper skills. We shall have a lack of people. Right now in Ukraine, it's difficult to find highly qualified people, even with good wages in the sector of green industry, in the field of sustainable energy. And the gap will increase. It means that the employers in such sectors who create green jobs and are focused at achievement of climatic goals will be trying to find the right people. In order to find them, in order to implement their business ideas, and to achieve that objective of the transition to the clean energy. The task of the civil society and the task of the educational establishments and the government is to use that synergy so that the jobs will appear. As I remember, according to the annual report of the World Economic Forum about the future jobs, the employers have increased the level of employment on the green jobs. And the demand did not meet the supply in the market, and we need to focus on it. Finally, I would like to add that I believe, and here in the ministry, we believe in the great role of women and female leadership in the green power. The female leadership in the acceleration of green transition. Also, as it is shown by the practice, as it is shown by the practice, not only in Europe, also in the US, that more startups in the sector of the green power and sustainable development are the startups initiated or implemented by women. And women are more capable towards advocacy of sustainable development, as well as changes in management of climatic risks. And therefore, in the Ministry for Energy, we communicate with our partners, with the German government, Norwegian government, and the United States, that we should do our best with the support of the donors to support female leadership in creating the jobs. This is especially true for the women among the IDPs who are now outside of Ukraine. We apply to our partners and we request them, shall we together create the programs where the women who are beyond Ukraine or the women who are in Ukraine and would like to acquire new skills, to give them the grants or the opportunity for education. And with the grants to support their startups, and so the startups must initiate sustainable jobs, creation of sustainable jobs, and make cooperation of business in the countries where they stay, conventionally speaking, Poland, Norway, Germany. And Ukraine, creating some industry or service or generation or production or distribution to find themselves in that niche. And this will be a great impulse towards innovations and startups, as well as an impulse towards implementation of business initiatives. Thank you, Yaroslav. I would like to give the floor to the woman, our next keynote speaker. We are grateful to you for your time and for your well-grounded presentation. Yet we need to listen to another three speakers. Using this opportunity, we invite the Ministry for Energy to co-organization of the next high-level event that we planned later in the end of November that will be about green jobs. And the hub in the United States, as you discussed already, we also have contacts with them, and we shall invite female leadership. Thank you, Mr. Yaroslav. Indeed, overcoming our dependence, our addiction to the fossil fuel is not easy. Well, we move well on that way along with the European Union. We expect active steps in that direction, in particular from our government. We would like to see the draft strategy energy documents and being part of it as civil society. We hope there will be such an opportunity. I would like to give the floor, speaking of the female leadership, I would like to give the floor to Olga Rimishevska, who is director of the Department of Restoration and Development of Vinnytsia City Hall. So, Olga, we give you the floor. We request you to tell why Vinnytsia is a leader city among Ukrainian cities on the green transformation right now. Whether this is connected with European Green Deal, we believe there is such a connection, and with the declaration which was made. And Yaroslav discussed working with the regions. Actually, we all understand that the investment will arrive under the condition that there is the war is won, and there is a technology and there is support from our reliable partners in the EU. Yet the entire burden falls onto the regions. There are two ambitious goals. If there is restoration from the regions, this is bottom-up approach, they may implement even greater ambitions compared to the top-down, because the government has lower objectives compared to those required by the regions. And we have worked on it before the war. Vinnytsia territorial community is working on it actively. Could you please tell us, because we know that you have received a lot of companies from the east of Ukraine, what happens to the green jobs? Good morning, dear participants. I'm grateful for the invitation for this wonderful event. It looks like the green jobs is something new nowadays. By listening to all the speakers, we understand that we are working on it. Regretfully, the legislation fails to define such terms. Therefore, I would like to share with you the achievements that we already have today and what we are working at in this direction. So in the year 2022, in January, at the session of the City Hall, we have declared the Green Deal of Vinnytsia became the first city in Ukraine which declared such a deal. Accordingly, we move in the direction and achievement of the objectives of the European Green Deal. We had ambitious plans. Our organizers have involved themselves into that process, and they helped us to develop a contentful document, and we have formulated a roadmap by which in February of last year we had the plans to move actively. Yet the war did not create such an opportunity, and today we actively started this process. In the roadmap, there is a main document from which we had to start. This is vulnerability assessment of the communities towards climate change. And now with the experts, we are developing this document that it shows what are the risks in the community, what should we work on. We have the Green Deal. We understand that it contains absolutely all of the spheres, which it has to do with all of the structural units of the City Hall, and we are working on it in the direction of alternative energy sources. There are several practical developments we would like to share, telling that we really have it. Since 2019, 2015, we have been the leaders, and we have received the first European Energy Award in the city of Vinnytsia. This is the first city in Eastern Europe which has received it. In 2019, we confirmed our status, received Silver Award in this direction, and we keep working. Within European Energy Award, we have a number of earmarked programs of the Community for Energy Efficiency of Public Buildings. And we are actively working on thermal modernization of the educational institutions, healthcare institutions. This is important for us, that all those institutions are provided with energy-efficient activities. In addition, we held a number of trainings for the employees. We taught them energy audit, and we enabled them to independently undertake the activities like energy audit of municipal buildings and residential blocks. Therefore, we have findings and recommendations about improvements in the public buildings, energy improvements, improvement of energy efficiency in public building in our city. About the solar farms, this year also the program was approved, And we have defined the list of the healthcare institutions about the possibilities of implementation of solar farms. This year, we plan to manage till the year end to equip 3 hospitals with solar farms. To support that, we have 3 companies of our community which are actually participating and helping us in this direction. One of the speakers, understand, on the second panel will be presenting. This is the company NES. They have a lot of developments in this direction in the power sector, including solar farms. And this year, this company received a license. Simply speaking, they have created the power battery, like a power bank, which makes it possible per 1 megawatt to stockpile the power. I believe that Mr. Sergey will actually discuss it. Such developments have been implemented in the year 2021. And this year, they received the license. We are working in that direction. So solar farms, the last year, especially the fall of last year, helped the country to understand, as well as the businesses, what are the new challenges with power supply. We understood that the companies could not operate in the same way. There were their schedules of blackouts. Everybody had to adjust to the new challenges. During this year, currently, as for October, we have 37 economic agents who have actively started the processes for looking for the alternative sources of energy. And these days, 37 business entities have generated 9.6 megawatt of electricity by the solar farms or the other sources, other alternative sources. Therefore, a business is working actively on Vinnytsia Transportation Company. This is our utility company, which is providing for passenger transport to our community. Also, this year, they have installed the solar panels with a capacity of 130 kilowatt. And gradually, we're doing our best, and also next year, we shall revise the list of critical or priority institutions where we shall install the solar panels. About the public transport, I would like to share the information. As you may know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 8 communities have joined the city of Vinnytsia. We became a territorial community. Our area increased 2 times. And we have now new challenges, how to provide for the logistics of the connected territories to the city. We understand that the majority of those communities are working in the city. Based on Vinnytsia Transportation Company, our specialists these days are providing for assembly of the trolley buses that can run autonomously. Accordingly, we save funds on laying down the contact grids. We are saving, which is most important. We don't save, but we reduce emissions of CO2 into the atmospheric air from diesel or gasoline buses, for example. And in such a way, we have provided all of the adjacent territories which are transport. As trolley buses, they go to the final stop. They get off the grid, and still they have up to 20 kilometers to run in order to connect to the adjacent territories and come back to the city. Also connect back to the grid, get charged, and continue their route. Those are the environmental aspects that we make today. Development of the bicycle, of the cycling with reconstruction or capital repair of the motorways. We are also planning the roadmap for bicycle ways. Today we have 92 kilometers of cycling ways. About relocated business, yes, indeed, last year we have actively extended the helping hand to such businesses that they can quickly and smoothly find in the territory of our community the spaces, warehousing spaces, the office spaces, maybe to build from scratch. And today we have about 300 economic agents who have relocated to our community. And we have created more than 1,500 new jobs. About the environmental aspect of such green jobs in the territory of the community, there are 4 industrial parks. All of them have different forms of organization, including private and municipal, and as well as mixed. One of the key criteria that we have set to look for the investors is actually environmental production, that those are the companies that will use in their work the modern innovative technologies of production, processing, reduction of the emissions into the atmospheric air, the recycling of water, have some cycle economy. Maybe it's a waste for one company, but for another company, this is a source of heating. Therefore, we are working in that direction to create the eco-industrial parks, and gradually we achieve success. Regretfully, with some hostilities, foreign investors cannot return to their building processes. Everything which is below the ground was prepared, the foundations were laid down, and yet they expect, as they wait for some peace and the end of the war in order to restore their work and to build their industrial companies in the territory of our community. Maybe this scares them off, but it does not stop them. They are ready as soon as they complete the process that they have started in the previous years. Maybe I forgot something. Actually, we have a lot to share. By the way, for support of the small and medium business, our community developed a program for support of the economic agents who will establish on their companies alternative sources of energy, up to 30%, depending on the criteria. Such an economic agent may receive certain compensation from the community. And there is a program to create new jobs, which also compensates if the company on the reporting day has a number of people via the partner banking institutions at the expense of the city hall. There is a program of compensation. Thank you. Thank you very much, Olga. We do have questions. I will request the 2 remaining speakers who are the experts in a very important field, Also to speak and to contribute the important things. Where shall we find the highly qualified people? Where shall we find the right skills that we need to implement various green projects? Unless we have them in Vilnius right now, we were looking for 3 people into our department. There was a political will to create and finance a department of 3 people. With Natalia, we worked with Vilnius City Hall in the year 2021, and we could not find them, even 3 people, even with good conditions of work as well as good remuneration. We did not find the right skills. I would like to say one sentence. The professions which had highest concentration of green jobs in 2022, those were the specialists of environmental legislation, energy conservation engineers. We heard about engineers for environmental protection and a specialist for protection of soils. We would add construction specialists. I would like to announce our 2 next speakers who will give us the answer to those important questions. And we're happy that you, Mr. Rodion, the advisor to Confederation of the Employers, head of the Directors Institute of Professional Qualifications, are today with you. Not so often we cooperate with trade unions, and also with the unions of employers. Yet we have to do it continuously. We need to do it more often, and we have to do it not in a chaotical way, but rather to work in a systemic fashion. Mr. Rodion, it's very interesting to hear that he has initiated creating the qualification map of Ukraine, the portable analysis of data of national and regional labor market, employment market, he has the data that we require to analyze what is happening to create in that sector. Also, he managed creation of 24 professional standards for private and public sector and analyzed the requirements of the labor market in the territory of Eastern Ukraine, probably lately. Mr. Rodion, you're welcome. And also we shall be connected. I would like to announce that the next speaker, Mr. Andriev, head of the trade union of the construction and construction industry materials. We know what a huge quantity of homes and other premises we shall have to rebuild. This is one of the key matters. How shall we do it? Therefore, we request Mr. Rodion to have the floor. Thank you.
Да, дякую, пані Світлана, за чудову.
Thank you for this wonderful presentations and good afternoon, dear colleagues, and of course we are working with the private sector, with the Confederation of Employers, and we worked for many years in the Institute of Professional Qualifications, and so we follow the tendencies on the labor market, and we group all these tendencies, and in the educational system we have something to say about this, so I would like to reflect a bit about some things which I heard today, and I would like to express very big respect to our colleagues from Vinnytsia, because one of reflection is that in Ukraine we don't have a consolidated policy about definition of development of green jobs, understanding how to qualify this field, as Natalia was saying, and the example of Vinnytsia gave me some optimism, because there is an example. And we have an example when there is no state regulation. Our self-government regulation is a perfect example how people are using the local resources and can do a system which is not a perfect, not complex one, but it exists, and it allows to have a stimulus for the companies, and I'm sure that they will be following with some regulations which will push the businesses to get these stimulus for this carrot which is provided by the community. But unfortunately, on the national level, once again, there is no such a thing, and we saw in 2019 when European Education Fund, the organization which is working with a system of education around the European Union, we were proposed to take part in the research how the main concept of green transfer, the Green Deal, they are shown in the program documents in Ukraine, and B, how these the competencies related to these tasks, they are shown in the educational documents. That is actually how this transfer to these things, as Torsten was speaking very well about this. Who will use these innovations which will fall on us from the sky after the war? Unfortunately, there is no optimism, honestly speaking. And so, if on the level of program documents in the industries which Natalia was presenting, so they were corresponding the water industry, agriculture industry, and if I say that on the level of documents. Since 2019, we saw such slogans, so we need the need for qualifications, but on the level of implementation of the documents and the programs, unfortunately, the senior didn't move further than the declarations, and the situation is even worse in the educational system. I would like to demonstrate before I continue with a very interesting example. So my son is studying in a college, and when he entered the first year, so the traditional subject of IT technology. So do you know what started from the IT course in the colleges for the students in 2019? And it started with the configuration of a computer system block, keyboard and display, maybe in the digital skills, we have a better situation than the environment field. So the Ukraine is very well known in the computer sciences, digital technologies, but creation of skills and competences is being created. If you ask the well-known IT companies, how do you need the skills which are created in the educational system? 99.99% of these people will say that they don't need it. And so what the question is, what these people are doing in the educational system? Once again, Ukraine is the country of informational technologies, but and IT sector is one of the best. But there is a document of creation of professional standards. This is a document which defines the requirements of the employer to what the person should do on the workplace. So this is the indicator in the educational system which competences the person should get in the educational system. It doesn't influence the educational system. However, since this year, in the paradigm of professional standards, the digital competences is present. It is called as DJCOM, and which actually the depiction of main competences in the digital knowledge on the European knowledge, but on the environmental competences, it's a nightmare. Unfortunately, our standards, which we use to train and we educate people in the school, would like to draw your attention that the digital and the green competences, they don't fall from the sky. So the person to work on a green workplace, which we saw here as examples, the person should take these knowledges and competences from somewhere. So I don't have any optimism about that there will be work for everyone in the green technologies, and so we will employ all the people who will come back to Ukraine or not. I will tell you afterwards why. But the standards in the education can give us an conclusion that the results of education of our pupils in the schools and mainly in the professional education and higher education, they don't correspond to even to the notions and terms of green technologies which exist in the European Union today. And I would like to draw attention that in 2022, in January, we had, of course, European Union is the union of different frameworks. So there was a framework of the competences for green transfer. and it is available, and call for everyone. It is available in the educational system. So the children who enter the first class, first form this year, in 10 years, with today's competencies of green transfer, they will not have them as the same. So this is the reality where our educational system is not ready. But as for innovations, a very good idea, and so that that Russia gave us a gift, so to say, because it opened for us a huge opportunities for investments. If before businesses were hesitating if to use the previous facilities, but today the businesses don't have any questions. There is no old businesses, but so we need to use something new. And so I'm very thankful to Yaroslav. I think that Ukraine should not be transferred into the dump pit of all the technologies from the whole world. But what to do if we have investments? We need to use it. What are the investments? The money that international business want to use, if they have here the potentials, so we can use it as a base. Today it is not the case, but we take it. Who are these people? So who will implement this? In Ukraine, we don't have them. And today in the morning, I had them interview on the current labor market in Ukraine. We don't have people who will work in Ukraine. We don't have them physically. Just hoping that the people who get these skills abroad, and they will come back with all the respect to our functionaries, that these people will be here, but it will not happen. But the investment will be there, and the example, the very well-known company is Habura, who builds roads for us. But why do they build roads for us? Because with all the myths that Ukraine has a very qualified workplace, even in a road industry, it is not the gas turbines or atomic energy. With all this, the Turkish company did not find enough specialists who can replace these people in construction of roads, and they used their specialists. The algorithm is well known, and we understand the scheme. So the question is to us, using all what was said before by me and by colleagues, we will go with which model, and I'm very happy that the colleagues from the ministry, they understand that they needed to invest in the skills. We needed to invest in the system of education, not only with money, but with intellect. And my colleagues from energy efficiency from the state agency, so that they do something with the qualification aspects for the specialists for which they will work. It's very good, because 2 years ago they didn't do this. We invited the colleagues from energy efficiency about the skills and the development. We don't have anything to say. We do nothing. I'm very happy that we didn't have this. But friends, we needed to do it yesterday. The educational system is very inertial system, and that the people who will learn today something about the energy transfer, they will be not capable to work in 10 years. It's very difficult to teach something about green jobs. So they should be carved in the subconscious, how to switch off the lamp and how to wash the hands. So the children are taught today today abroad, and we have a lot of examples. How to they teach the children to wash their hands. You open the tap, you put the soap, but you close the tap while you are washing your hands. So the colleagues are silent. But I hope that in future there will be more and more examples like this, and the state will join us. So thank you, Rodion, and it's very relevant. And of course, you just gave us a very strategic assessment. So we have a topic, and we can use it as a benchmark where we are and which point we are. We understand where we need to go. So we need to understand in reality where we are. So if we are in the pit, it does mean that there is no sun and sky above us, so we can go out of this pit through education, and we hope so much that the fund and Irina Kondratenko they supported us today, and they will support us in the future events. So the next floor, and with our next presentation, we will plan to make a political discussion with people from the Ministry of Economy, with education and finance. So we will discuss. So we know where we are, but we know where we want to go. Speaking about the real world and about the education, about the programs which are in the European Union, because the European Union invests in requalification during the whole life, not only for students. So this is the program, and we want to be as a part of it, not as a candidate country, but the country which is inside already for many years, despite our neighbors which we have. And so I would like to announce that we will write it additionally, so because of the issue of climate, gender equality, that labor will bring people to justice, and we need to influence this road, and so we need the support from our authorities. I would like to invite Vasil Andreev. Maybe Vasil was tired to wait, but I would like to present him, and we will listen very good presentation. And it's very important to listen to people who do it as a norm and who put it into the legislation to make it reality. It's very hard work, and with the because of technical pause, after this we will have a discussion, a very small discussion for some 15 minutes, and we are in the contact, and we will send you the reply, and after then there will be lunch break, and after this there will be another session with businesses and practical cases with investments. So we have Vasil, and Vasil Andreev is head of trade union of industry of construction industry and industry of construction materials. He was working for many years assuring labor legislation, non-discrimination in the labor and hygiene, and it's very good that such people is the head of trade union of construction workers. So we needed to understand why the zero emission houses must be built not only in Germany but in Ukraine, and whatever was destroyed, we are very sorry, but we needed to rebuild. And how many of this will be rebuilt, maybe not with the zero principle, but with minimum emissions. It's green technologies. We have green steel. Lots of people speak about this. So please, Vasil, tell us what we see in this, and do we have the hope? And thank you for your patience and joining us. Thank you. So I'm very sorry. I'm on the road. I had the meeting with one of the mayors, so I would like to be short, not for 2 pages. So, so as for the topic today, first of all industries, on sectors in construction industry. Um, I will just go somewhere where it is quiet because people are testing construction equipment. First of all the sectors in construction industry, they evaluate themselves for green transfer and for future labor, because the future labor will be related to green economy and construction people. They think how to modernize the building. Energy people, they think about if they will have energy at all, if they have energy independent buildings. Cement people, they think about the negative balance of carbon gases, how the concrete can absorb the CO2, and all of them, they are concentrated around this to understand if construction industry will be as it was before, just will be as it should be in the future. So this is an unknown issue, and this is what we were saying in Ministry of Energy, and our honorable officers from Energy Efficiency Agency. So we were speaking about the qualified specialists, as it was said in the research. This is a problem which we need to solve, so we can look at the volume of this problem and the volume of the construction industry. Before the war, it was 3 billion euro. If we have the assets destroyed for 100 billion, so we will restore it in 33 years. If it is 300 billion, so it is 400 years to restore. So of course, there are sectors which are not established yet, and here we understand how to do, because construction workers with colleagues from other industries, for example, the metallurgy, which was destroyed in the south of Ukraine. So we understand that we will need to invest 100 billion euros to restore this industry. Of course, we could restore the old buildings from the Soviet era, than to build them from zero. So, but at least we needed to train persons not to use the space technologies, not in 3 months, as it is in the vocational education here in Ukraine. So we decided to help the industry and to develop the curricula, how to train the specialists which can study in our vocational schools, which we have more than 50 of them, or maybe in the trade union educational facilities, which are empty now, or with IDPs today. So So we were interested in the agenda of green construction. Some industries were interested, some were using the traditional approach, but it shows us that we needed to train construction workers very fast with new technologies and to let other people from other regions and industries to earn money faster. Also, maybe some couple of points I will show you. So we were speaking about the labor, dignified labor is a very old concept for many decades, and it includes also not only the researchers but international standards and these standards they established in international documents in tendencies which compulsory for the countries which ratified them, and so the dignified labor also includes not only very good salaries but safe working conditions, which we are speaking about with the European Union, who modernize today the modernizes thermal modernization as there is a project in the Ternopil region, and we need to say that all these clauses should be all contracts about the safe labor, and it should be maintained by all trade unions. And the final thing I would like to say about the environment and the environmentally free construction, it is the waste treatment, including the waste treatment of the buildings which were destroyed by the artilleries. It is not only about the shells inside these buildings which did not explode, which can explode during the dismantling. For us, the issues of waste treatment and safety of labor, which at the European level, this is the treatment of asbestos-containing materials. It is not a secret that about 40% of roofs in Ukraine, they covered with cement plates which contain asbestos, which were supplied from Kazakhstan and Russia, and we cannot just take them and bury them some way, because if such use of cement roof plates, we will put in danger all the people who are working and people who live around, because of such micro particles. They will go into lungs and they will never go out, and will create diseases. So this is the agenda. I wanted to be fast. Sorry, so that I just enumerated them, and so I would like to enumerate our problems in the construction industry. So the number of people who will work in the industries, in this industry, taking into account the people who left, we need to return them. As Natalia was saying, the dignified labor point is important. So the waste treatment approach also, and training of new workers who can be trained not only with space technologies, but it can be trained in by any organization. They can use the standards which our trade union is using. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vasil. And we open this discussion with the principal one question from the audience, and one speaker will answer to make it efficient, this discussion. And the first question will be from our participants who take part in our event and welcome. And if you want to say it, please, I will give you the microphone to announce yourself. Myself, Sofana and Romanova, founder of Research Center and activist in the climate field. Please ask your question and to whom of the speakers you will address it. And there are also online questions from our participants, and I hope there will be questions. That is, do we have someone who wants? If not, it's okay, because such volume of information we need to think over. Of course, the questions can come. We have the question online. First question: how it will be inclusive of a green transfer for women and people with vulnerabilities and internally displaced persons and people with low income, those who suffer from energy poorness, and which are the categories who will be there? Olga, please. So thank you for this question. Our experience is considering that our department was created in July of this year. But one of the approaches of energy management is barrierlessness. So we work on the program. If we can join all these points of inclusivity in all authorities, and what we do and how we work today. First of all, this is in the passenger transportation in municipality. 60% of the transport they have with availability and accessibility for such people. According to this, we also use the European practice of castle border rims and elevators in the transport. As for construction norms, they should be fulfilled. We have several public organizations which, before the commissioning of construction site, they go there and check it for people who are on wheelchairs. People on wheelchairs should check if they can enter and give the recommendations of on such requirements. That is why we work on this, and we create these rehabilitation centers. And the key point on our official website of Vinnytsia City Council, if the person lives in district and there is an obstacle, the person can put it with a tick, with a pinpoint on the map, and this location comes to our department, and people react on the road rims or any other points, and that is why and how we work with our people in our community. So it's in short, because this is a website for different categories, maybe for increase of volume of sound, and we have a map.
This Center for Administrative Services with the relative signs and elements. By the year end, we would like to develop the program to collect everything, to control it, to plan it, because we understand there is a strategy of the First Lady Olena Zelenska on no barrier environment in the communication using the terminology. Some changes took place, therefore this must be adopted and also matched in all of the earmarked programs for the further use and fulfillment of particular tasks. The next question.
One specific aspect, and we were talking about education. And we had a specific program when we started to try to work on energy efficiency in housing to train women as energy auditors. And it was very popular, it was very successful. And I think it's about perception. So to encourage girls, women, to be interested in this green transition in different aspects is an investment in the future, and it's also an investment in having a more, let's say, equal society, and especially because in the education sector, at the central level, it is very difficult. What I understood from you, I think there's also some room at the local level to launch such initiatives, to see, well, can we, on the base of, I don't know, a professional school or some other basis, have a dedicated program to train, for instance, energy auditors, to train energy managers, and to encourage women and girls to apply, because this is the future. And also, as Jaroslav Demchikov mentioned, I mean, the experience in the European Union shows it very clearly, that the traditional gender roles in energy are changing dramatically. And we are getting to more distributed, smarter systems, etc. And this is not only true for energy. So I think it's a huge task also to change the mindset and to change the education system also in this sense.
Ви абсолютно праві, пане Торстен.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Thorsten. Have started development of the market systems. And what you say is the market system development is one of the key interventions of the strategic development. And the money may come from SIDA, Norwegian fund, Sweden, EU, in order to connect such vulnerable market participants as women in the rural areas. A woman collects environmental tea. If she has internet, also access to the sales market, that digitalization that we're talking about, and will sell that tea for euro into Europe, and she will know that they will buy of that tea for that many euro. This is a market intervention. Such market interventions will define how we create the market for such people who were excluded before. Prosumers, small producers of electricity from renewable sources, because currently there is no good market for them, and the colleagues can confirm it. This is also growth, but it's a smart growth. I have a question to Natalia about the study. Did you include into the study the matter of infrastructure and organization, on the basis of which it will be possible to do the reorientation, requalification of human capital for development of green energy in Ukraine? Very much indeed. We did not come to that stage. We started from the very beginning. What are the green jobs, the concept? We tried to do the preliminary calculation to understand whether it has any sense. Yet on the next stage, it's quite possible that also we shall refer to that matter. We have a question. I would like to thank you sincerely for this contentful presentation to the distinguished speakers. I have a question. We say that education is a driver for the future green transition. This is of no doubt. I'm Ekaterina Gnedina, candidate of economic science, associate professor of the National University Chernihiv Polytechnic Institute. I'm involved in the green startups, and I'm trying to develop that direction in our university. I have a question to your mind. What are the effective mechanisms, probably EU practices, that we may implement into universities of Ukraine for the sake of acceleration of eco-transformation development of green education? Because different universities are moving with a different pace. And indeed, we would like to apply some efficient mechanisms for this kind of green transition at the level of the universities. Because nowadays, several times, experts have insisted that emphasize that the universities will apply one of the key roles of transition and creating the green jobs in the future. I will start with your permission, and the colleagues may join me later. Thank you for your question. It's very good to see proactive approach from the system of education, which is not based on the old notions that we know best what is needed in the labor market among the specialists that we train. Regretfully, we faced that too often in our discussions with the system of university education. Actually, there are such things connected to the infrastructure things that I am not a great specialist of and many people know about. The same thermal modernization of buildings, establishing energy-efficient bulbs, light sensors, those things that theoretical university, as it has available funds, may implement into daily life, and it works, especially in the medium and long term period. I believe that this can be suggested by such infrastructural things. About the contents of the education, I will not go into specialized discussions about accreditation of the programs by the ministry, just speaking in the basic language. Indeed, we can take the structure of the specialities that we train. Maybe you have environmentalists or people who are working in that market. Please have a look on that curriculum. Please compare that curriculum to other curriculums which are similar, like the master studies. That we have noticed that the results of the education of the virologists and environmentalists are the same, because they are generally formed, while not seeing the hat who is actually trained. One can, in 9 out of 10 cases, fail to guess what kind of specialist he or she is. Actually, from the perspective of the labor market, this is terrible. I'm sorry for such bad words, yet this is wrong. The document which I mentioned today, I just found out that it's available. We all expected it only emerged 2022. The same DG.com, their competency framework in the field of sustainability, sustainable technology of development and green technology in particular, as I'm confident, will help updating the program of the curriculum of training specialists and making you pioneers, as you wish, in a good sense, for training of specialists who indeed will correspond to European requirements, to their competencies in the field of energy management or environmental protection. I take the wide areas of training that will allow in the future narrowing down the approach to the particular employer. I don't know what the ministry will say. The Agency for Accreditation of Universities and University Curricula. Yet, I believe that if you have a powerful basis, that this is not only based on your proposals, but also the documents that we aspire for in the EU, you will have a nice field for implementation of such ideas. Thank you very much indeed. And the very last question, yet we cannot bypass it. And then we move to the lunch break and we invite everybody. This is an important question. What about the jobs that will become free in the coal sector, thermal power plants, coal mines? Those are highly qualified workers that might also requalify. I remember this conference on restoration in London. There was a good side event with participation of mayors of cities, of the coal cities, having that problem and the need for transition. I liked the approach of the mayor of Chervonograd. This is a Lviv region, traditional coal mining region, when he told that we must do the transition in such a way that you preserve the qualification, which is in the coal mines. For the other fields, this can be the plant for production of solar panels. One can use the similar competencies that people have, that conventionally those people don't have to become computer scientists. There are fields which are quite similar, and one has to make use of it. As I understand, tomorrow there will be also the event with participation of the mayors of the coal mining regions, coal mining cities, and it's a good approach because we need to look into the future and think what are the adjacent fields and develop those fields in those cities, not to invent the new things. Thank you very much indeed, and we would like to complete our speakers' discussion and our panel, your discussion with you. We understand that this is not sufficient, but there will be the next events. We would like to invite you to join such events, also to involve in get involved in the social networks, together with STAND organization, Resource and Analytical Center of Society and Environment. I would like to thank everybody who spent those wonderful 2 hours with us. Believe me that today we laid down a very good foundation for the next social challenge that we all would like to see with the beginning of this discussion, with the confident next steps. Indeed, we shall be able to rebuild our country as we remember it, as we love it, and making it even better.
You know, this green transition is always a local thing. There needs to be a big framework. We have it in the European Union, we have it in all the states, but it's always local. And local partnerships are very, very, very effective. So I would really encourage you to think about local partnerships. Try to find, you know, cities, regions, somewhere in the European Union, maybe even because you know somebody there. And especially now when so many people are in these countries, use this and develop this, and you don't have to wait until everything is perfect.
Добре, і я дуже коротко по одному реченню наші спікери.
Very briefly to the speakers, just one sentence. What is your final message? What is your takeaway from this event? Actually, listening to each of the speakers today, I understood that there are quite many directions on which we still have to work in this field. So together we stand. Yes, together we stand, no doubt. Only together we can do what we have to do. So, Olga, do we have anyone else online? That's great. So, Vasil, the final message from you. Indeed, that problem of restoration is also a responsibility of our partners, our friends and colleagues. Which are around, Natalia Musevich, and it's interesting for us to work together, because it was also interesting for me that our fields of interest are overlap. More jobs, more green jobs, that's more jobs for our trade union members, and more jobs and more green economy. We have a saying in the trade unions that on the dead planet there are no jobs. Therefore, the environment from this perspective is also important. After listening to everybody, we understand that we do the right things. Thank you for raising such topics. Also, you give some inspiration to other cities and communities, some structural units to think of it. And with joint efforts to believe that we can overcome everything, we can achieve everything, and the victory will stay with us. Victory and clean energy is a fair one that will change the world. We invite you to the lunch break and the next session, which is about business cases in the investment and green jobs. Thank you.
Шановні гості, учасники заходу.
Dear guests, please proceed into the room. Please take your seats. We shall start the second